The backyard geyser. Lily skipped into the backyard, humming a made-up tune about sunshine and sunflowers. She'd promised her prize-winning beauties she'd check on them, a daily ritual ever since Mrs. Hawthorne from number 14 had scoffed at their height during the HOA meeting. Lily wasn't about to let a little negativity wilt her champions. Her bare feet squished. That wasn't right. The grass was usually dry by this hour. She looked down. Dark, glistening mud oozed between her toes. Frowning, she took another step. Squish. Squish. The humming died in her throat. The entire backyard was a swamp. Panic tightened her chest. Her sunflowers. She stumbled towards them, each step sinking deeper into the mire. The rich, earthy scent of the soil was overpowered by a musty, stagnant odor. The usually vibrant green leaves of her sunflowers drooped, heavy with mud. The ground around their thick stalks was saturated, little rivulets of water snaking away from a central point. It wasn't raining. It hadn't rained in days. Lily's eyes darted around, following the flow of the muddy water. It seemed to be originating from the far corner of the yard, near the old oak tree. As she got closer, she heard it, a gurgling, rushing sound like a miniature waterfall hidden beneath the surface. The ground there bubbled and shifted, a dark, churning vortex of mud. "Dad!" she yelled, her voice cracking with alarm. "Dad, come quick!" She ran back to the house, leaving muddy footprints across the patio. She burst through the back door, nearly colliding with Mr. Chun, who was meticulously polishing his collection of bonsai shears. "Lilybug, what is it? You look like you wrestled a mud monster." He chuckled, but his smile faded as he saw the genuine fear in her eyes. "The backyard. It's flooding. My sunflowers." She gasped, unable to catch her breath. Mr. Chun dropped the shears. He was a plumber, after all. Flooding was a professional emergency. He followed Lily outside, his face grim. One look at the transformed landscape confirmed her fears. "Holy pipes," he muttered, already assessing the situation. He waded into the muddy expanse, his work boots sinking with each step. "Show me where it's coming from." Lily led him to the bubbling vortex. Mr. Chin knelt, his brow furrowed as he examined the swirling mud. He poked at the ground with a long screwdriver he always kept in his back pocket, then recoiled as the screwdriver disappeared into the mud with a soft plop. "Definitely a burst pipe," he declared, his voice tight. "But not just any pipe. This is a main line." He stood up, his gaze scanning the perimeter of the yard. "The question is, what caused it?" He started walking, his eyes narrowed, following the subtle signs only a seasoned plumber would notice: slight variations in the water pressure, the direction of the flow, the type of soil displaced. He stopped abruptly near the fence line, a few feet from where the HOA's prized rose bushes planted by Mrs. Hawthorne herself bloomed a little too perfectly. "Here," he said, pointing to a patch of disturbed earth barely concealed beneath a layer of mulch. He knelt again, carefully brushing away the loose soil with his hand. Underneath, nestled between the roots of a particularly thorny rosebush, lay the severed end of a thick PVC pipe, jagged and uneven. "That's no accident," Mr. Chin said, his voice low and dangerous. He picked up a small, glinting shard of metal lying nearby. It was a piece of saw blade. Someone deliberately cut this pipe. Lily gasped. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Deliberately? Who would do such a thing? Her gaze landed on the meticulously manicured rose bushes on the other side of the fence. Mrs. Hawthorne's roses. Perfect, pristine, and probably thirsting for Lily's water. Her hands clenched into fists. This wasn't just about a broken pipe or a flooded backyard anymore. This was war. Suspicious crabtree. Rats? Dad squinted at the severed pipe, its jagged edges glinting under the weak, flashlight beam. "Never seen them chew through PVC like this, Lilybug." Lily knelt beside him, running a gloved finger along the cut. "Looks deliberate, doesn't it? Like someone used a saw." The musty smell of damp earth and stagnant water filled her nostrils. She shivered, and not just from the evening chill. Dad sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Deliberate or not, we gotta fix it. Fast." He stood, his back cracking. "Think you can grab the sealant and some spare piping from the shed?" As Lily walked towards the tool shed, a memory surfaced, sharp and unwelcome. Mrs. Crabtree. The HOA president. Her lips perpetually pursed, her eyes narrowed with disapproval. Mrs. Crabtree and her issues with their garden. "It's an eyesore, Mr. Chin," she'd said, her voice tight with barely suppressed irritation during their last encounter. "We strive for uniformity in this community. Your wild, untamed garden detracts from that." Lily had bristled then, pointing out the vibrant blossoms of her mother's carefully cultivated herbs and vegetables. It's beautiful and provides us with fresh food, she'd argued. We're not hurting anyone. Mrs. Crabtree had simply sniffed and adjusted her perfectly coiffed hair. Regulations are regulations, Mr. Chin. Either conform or face the consequences. Consequences? A cut water pipe? Could it be? She grabbed the sealant. The cold metal, a stark contrast to the sudden heat rising in her cheeks, seemed insane, completely irrational. Yet, the memory of Mrs. Crabtree's disdain lingered like a bad smell. Back at the damaged pipe, Dad was examining it more closely. Definitely a saw, he muttered. Look at these striations. Lily handed him the sealant. Dad, remember Mrs. Crabtree? The HOA president. He glanced up, his brow furrowed. The one who keeps complaining about your mother's tomatoes? Yeah, she was pretty angry about our nonconformity. Lily hesitated. Do you think? Could she have done this? Dad chuckled. A short, dismissive sound. Now, Lilybug, don't go jumping to conclusions. Mrs. Crabtree is a stickler for rules. Sure, but I doubt she'd resort to vandalism. He started applying the sealant, his movements practiced and efficient. But what if she hired someone? Lily persisted. Someone who wouldn't be traced back to her? Dad stopped, his hand hovering over the pipe. He looked at Lily, his expression softening. Honey, I appreciate your concern, but let's stick to facts. We don't even know if this is HOA related. But Dad, Lily insisted, you know how much she hates our garden. And she mentioned consequences. Dad sighed again, wiping his hands on a rag. Lily, this whole neighborhood is on our well and filtration system. We aren't even in the HOA. He stressed the word as if it were a shield. We own the land, the water rights, everything. She has no authority over us. Lily's stomach twisted. He was right. They weren't part of the HOA. So why? If Mrs. Crabtree wasn't directly responsible, then who was? And why would someone target their water supply? The questions swirled in her mind, more unsettling than the thought of a grumpy HOA president wielding a saw. This felt bigger, more personal. The sealant was applied, the spare pipe fitted into place. Dad turned on the pump, and water gurgled through the repaired section. No leaks visible. For now, the problem was solved. But the feeling of unease remained, a knot tightening in Lily's chest. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The stakeout. She did what? Sam choked on his lukewarm lemonade, spraying a fine mist across Lily's meticulously organized desk. I'm serious. The pipe to my house, the one that connects to the water supply, it's been cut. Clean cut, like someone used a saw. And who would benefit from that, Sam? Who's been making my life a living hell since I refused to join their stupid HOA? Lily paced her room, the floorboards groaning under her anxious energy. Sam wiped his face with the edge of his t-shirt. Okay, deep breaths. Let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe it was an accident? Construction? Squirrels with tiny saws? Lily stopped pacing and glared. Squirrels don't operate power tools, Sam. And I checked. No construction. No permits filed. Just Mrs. Crabtree glaring at me like I'd personally offended her prize-winning petunias. All right. Crabtree is intense. But cutting a pipe is serious. We need proof. Sam tapped his chin, his brow furrowed in thought. Stakeout? Stakeout, Lily affirmed, a grin spreading across her face. Operation Crabtree Crackdown is a go. The plan was simple, or at least as simple as Lily's plans ever got. They would set up a discreet observation post near Mrs. Crabtree's house and monitor her activities. Sam, with his knack for blending in, would handle surveillance, while Lily, with her unwavering determination, would document everything. The next afternoon found them nestled amongst the overgrown azaleas bordering the community park directly across the street from Mrs. Crabtree's meticulously manicured lawn. Sam, draped in a camouflage patterned blanket that looked suspiciously like it belonged to his grandpa, peered through a pair of binoculars he'd borrowed from his bird-watching uncle. Lily sat beside him, furiously scribbling notes in a small, worn notebook. Anything? Lily whispered, swatting away a persistent mosquito. Just the usual. Mrs. Crabtree watering her roses. Mr. Crabtree washing his car. A flock of pigeons plotting world domination on the roof, Sam replied dryly. Hours crawled by. The sun beat down, turning the azalea bushes into a humid sauna. Lily's stomach rumbled audibly. Sam, ever prepared, produced a bag of stale pretzels from his backpack. They munched in silence, their eyes glued to the Crabtree residence. Suddenly, Sam stiffened. Wait. Something's happening. He adjusted the binoculars. Mrs. Crabtree is. She's loading something into the trunk of her car. Looks like gardening tools. Lily grabbed her notebook. Gardening tools? Suspiciously large gardening tools. Mrs. Crabtree slammed the trunk shut and got into her car. It was an older model sedan, meticulously clean and shiny. She backed out of the driveway and drove off, heading away from the main road. Where's she going? Lily wondered aloud. Sam lowered the binoculars. I don't know, but I have a bad feeling about this. We need to follow her. Lily was already on her feet. Let's go. Operation Crabtree Crackdown, Phase 2, Pursuit. Sam groaned. Must we give everything a dramatic title? But he was already scrambling to gather their supplies. They raced to Lily's beat-up hatchback, its faded paint job a testament to years of sun and neglect. Lily jammed the key into the ignition, the engine sputtering to life with a protesting roar. She peeled out of the parking lot, tires squealing, and followed Mrs. Crabtree's sedan. The pursuit was on, eavesdropping on evil. A flamboyant riot of magenta azaleas choked Mrs. Crabtree's porch, their perfume a cloying blanket in the steamy air. Hunched behind a particularly dense bush, Lily slapped at a whining mosquito. You positive, Sam? She breathed, her query swallowed by the chorus of cicadas. Balanced acrobatically on a teetering pyramid of clay pots, Sam nudged his spectacles higher. Practically. Heard her earlier, practically welded to that phone. Prattling about influence and shady characters. He shuddered. Sounded positively Machiavellian. Worry gnawed at Lily's lip. Ever since the deluge, they'd been trying to unravel Mrs. Crabtree's vendetta. This eavesdropping session felt like their best bet. A voice, like nails dragged across a chalkboard, wafted from the porch. No, Agnes, they're proving remarkably resistant. But I'm formulating a strategy. A multifaceted campaign, if you will. Lily jabbed Sam's arm. Definitely Mrs. Crabtree. The fines are merely the overture, the voice continued, coated in saccharine menace. I've already discreetly reported several cosmetic infractions. Overlong grass, unauthorized shrubbery. Insignificant individually but cumulatively aggravating. Sam scribbled furiously, brow creased in concentration. And then, Mrs. Crabtree lowered her voice conspiratorially. There's the delicate matter of community opinion. A few skillfully disseminated rumors. A handful of carefully crafted complaints regarding disturbances and peculiar conduct. People will begin to question their presence. Develop a sense of unease. Anger flared within Lily. Rumors? Peculiar conduct? The insinuation stung. Oh, I highly doubt they possess the fortitude to endure such scrutiny. Mrs. Crabtree chuckled, a dry, rattling exhalation. Particularly given pre-existing challenges. Lily shot a look of dismay at Sam. She needed to grasp the full scope of this. The plumbing, of course. Terribly unreliable. Isn't it? So unfortunate, Mrs. Crabtree cooed. One might almost suspect intervention. Sam gasped, his notebook tumbling from his grasp. Mrs. Crabtree went silent, and Lily held her breath, praying her racing heart wouldn't betray them. Had they been discovered? Just the breeze, presumably, Mrs. Crabtree muttered, dismissing the sound. As I was articulating, Agnes, I anticipate their departure before month's end. Good riddance, I say. She unleashed another chilling laugh, then added, and with their absence, perhaps we can finally address that absurd ordinance against specific canine breeds. The Chihuahuas, you understand. Their incessant yapping is simply intolerable. Lily's jaw slackened. This wasn't solely about the water woes or the alleged violations. It was about banishment, expulsion from their haven. It was rooted in prejudice. Mrs. Crabtree delivered a curt farewell and severed the call with a sharp click. Lily and Sam remained petrified, concealed by the foliage. The air hung thick and still, infused with a stark understanding of Mrs. Crabtree's depravity. At last, Sam spoke, his voice a mere thread of sound. She's deliberately trying to wreck them. Lily nodded, her hands balled into tight fists. She won't succeed. The sickly sweet aroma of the azaleas now felt nauseating. This ceased to be a neighborly feud. This was a declaration of hostilities. The secret of the well. Lily slammed the back door shut, the screen rattling in its frame. Dad, she yelled, breathlessly recounting their eavesdropping adventure to Mr. Chin, who was meticulously pruning his prized bonsai. Sam, ever the diplomat, offered a slightly more measured version, emphasizing the HOA president's unveiled hostility and the veiled threat regarding water restrictions. Mr. Chin listened intently, his nimble fingers pausing in their work. He set down his tiny shears and turned, his gaze unusually serious. "So, they are finally making their move," he murmured, more to himself than to them. "Move? What move, Dad? What's going on?" Lily pressed, her anxiety spiking. He sighed, a sound like air escaping a punctured tire. "There is something I should have told you both a long time ago." He gestured for them to follow him inside, leading them not to the living room, but down into the musty, dimly lit basement. The basement smelled of damp earth and forgotten things. Mr. Chun navigated through stacks of old newspapers and dusty furniture covered in white sheets. He stopped in front of a heavy, wooden chest tucked away in a corner. Unlocking it with a small, ornate key he wore on a chain beneath his shirt, he lifted the creaking lid. Inside, nestled amongst yellowed silk scarves and antique photographs, lay a rolled-up parchment tied with a faded ribbon. "This," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "is the original deed to this property. It is also the secret of the well." Lily and Sam exchanged confused glances. "The well? What well?" Lily asked. Mr. Chun carefully unfurled the parchment. The ink was faded and the paper brittle, but the elegant script was still legible. He pointed to a specific passage, his finger tracing the archaic words. "Read this." Sam squinted, deciphering the Old English. "Together with all appurtenances thereunto belonging, including the original well and spring situated upon the land, and all rights, title, and interest in and to the water flowing therefrom." He looked up, his brow furrowed. "What does it mean?" "It means," Mr. Chin explained, his voice regaining its usual steady tone, "that this property owns the original well that feeds the entire community. And more importantly, it owns the water rights." Lily's jaw dropped. "You're kidding. All this time, we've been fighting over a few flowers and we own the freaking water supply." "Not we, Lily," Sam corrected gently. "Your family. This is a Chun family legacy." Mr. Chin nodded. "My grandfather knew. He warned me that one day someone would try to take it. He said greed is a powerful river always seeking to erode the banks of what is rightfully ours." He paused, his gaze hardening. I hoped he was wrong. I wanted to believe that people could live together in harmony, sharing the bounty of the land. But it seems he was right. He carefully re-rolled the deed and placed it back in the chest. "For years I kept this a secret, hoping to avoid conflict. I didn't want to cause trouble. But now they have forced my hand." Lily felt a surge of adrenaline. This wasn't just about the flowers anymore. This was about something much bigger, something fundamental. "So, what do we do, Dad?" Mr. Chin closed the chest and locked it, the click echoing in the silence of the basement. He turned to them, a determined glint in his eyes. "We fight. We show them the truth. We protect what is ours and what is rightfully the community's from those who would seek to control it for their own gain." He placed a hand on Lily's shoulder, then on Sam's. "We do it together. Operation Save Our Garden." "Okay, so, Operation Save Our Garden," Lily declared, pacing the length of Sam's porch. A monarch butterfly, bold and orange, fluttered around the honeysuckle, seemingly oblivious to their crisis. "We need a plan. A brilliant, crabtree thwarting plan." Sam, perched on the porch swing, chewed on his thumbnail. "Right? But what kind of plan? We can't just attack her garden with glitter bombs." Lily stopped pacing and gave him a look. "Tempting, but probably not the best long-term strategy. Besides, glitter is terrible for the environment." She tapped her chin. "We need to show everyone else what she's doing. Make them care about the garden." "How?" Sam asked, his voice laced with doubt. "Most people barely glance at it." "We throw a party," Lily exclaimed, her eyes shining. "A Save Our Garden party." Sam's eyebrows shot up. "A party? Seriously? Think about it." Lily bounced on the balls of her feet. "Food, music, maybe even a petition. We can get everyone talking about how important the garden is, how much Mrs. Crabtree is ruining it. We can expose her." Sam remained unconvinced. "That sounds chaotic and potentially disastrous. What if nobody comes?" "They will," Lily said, her voice brimming with confidence. "I'll make sure of it. We'll make it impossible to resist." She grabbed a stray pen and a napkin from the outdoor table. "Okay, First things first, decorations. We need banners, signs, maybe even some strategically placed gnomes holding protest signs. Sam sighed, but a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Protest gnomes. You're incorrigible. But effective, Lily countered, sketching furiously on the napkin. Food. We need something that screams garden. Maybe mini quiches with garden vegetables? And lemonade with fresh mint. And invitations, Sam added, grabbing another napkin and starting to make a list. We need to get the word out to everyone in the neighborhood, and maybe even some people from outside. We could put up flyers at the community center. The afternoon sun dappled through the leaves, casting dancing shadows on their faces as they brainstormed. Lily, fueled by nervous energy, rattled off ideas at warp speed. Sam, ever the pragmatist, tried to rein her in, ensuring their plan had at least a semblance of feasibility. Okay, invitations, Sam said after they'd settled on a date and time. What should they say? Lily snatched the napkin. Something catchy. Something that tugs at the heartstrings. How about, our garden is dying. Help us save it. Sam winced. A bit dramatic, don't you think? Maybe something a little less alarmist. They debated for another half hour, finally settling on, join us for a Save Our Garden party. Celebrate the beauty of our community and learn how you can help protect it. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the Rodriguez's lawn, they had a list of tasks longer than Mrs. Crabtree's list of HOA violations. Banners to make, invitations to print, food to prepare, and, of course, protest gnomes to acquire. This is going to be a lot of work, Sam said, surveying their notes with a weary sigh. Lily grinned. Totally worth it. We're saving our garden, Sam. And maybe, just maybe, we're going to teach Mrs. Crabtree a thing or two about community spirit. She paused, her expression turning serious. This has to work, Sam. That garden. It's more than just flowers and vegetables. It's a symbol. I know, Sam said quietly, meeting her gaze. And we're not going to let her take it away. The party and the proof. The scent of grilled corn and blooming jasmine hung heavy in the twilight air. Lanterns strung across Lily's pergola cast a warm glow on the laughing faces gathered in her backyard. The Save Our Garden party was a runaway success. Children chased fireflies, their squeals blending with the gentle strumming of Mateo's guitar. Platters of homemade tamales disappeared as quickly as Lily could bring them out. Sam weaved through the crowd, a relieved smile on his face. Everything's going great, Lily. Even old Mr. Henderson is tapping his foot to the music. Lily beamed, wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her hand. I know. I was so nervous no one would come. But look at this. Community, right? She grabbed 2 glasses of iced tea from a nearby table. Here, you deserve this. You've been running interference all day. Sam accepted the drink, taking a long swallow. Just making sure we don't violate any noise ordinances. Though I think Mateo could charm even Mrs. Crabtree into silence. Lily's smile faltered. Speaking of, any sign of her? Sam scanned the perimeter. Not yet, but I have a feeling she'll make an appearance. Especially after all the flyers we put up. Good, Lily said, a steely glint in her eyes. Because I have something special planned for her. She gestured toward a small, velvet-draped table set up near the edge of the patio. Operation Water Rights is about to commence. As Mateo finished his set, Lily stepped onto a small wooden crate, clapping her hands to get everyone's attention. All right, everyone, thank you all for coming. This garden means the world to me, and seeing you all here, supporting it, well, it's incredible. She paused, her gaze sweeping over the friendly faces. But this isn't just about my garden. It's about our community, about preserving the beauty and history of this place. She took a deep breath. For generations, my family has cultivated this land. And for generations, we've had the right to the water that flows beneath it. She paused for dramatic effect. I have proof. With a flourish, she pulled back the velvet cloth, revealing a stack of aged documents, tied together with a faded ribbon. A hush fell over the crowd as Lily carefully unfolded the top document, its parchment yellowed and brittle with age. These are original water rights deeds, dating back to the early 1900s. They clearly state that my family, the Chens, own the water rights to this specific source. She held up the document for all to see, the elegant script barely legible in the lantern light. These rights were legally obtained and have been continuously upheld ever since. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Several people gasped. Even Mr. Henderson looked surprised. Suddenly, a shrill voice cut through the air. What's the meaning of this charade? Mrs. Crabtree stood at the edge of the patio, her face a mask of fury. Her arms were crossed tightly over her chest. Flanking her were two of the more zealous members of the HOA board, their expressions mirroring her disapproval. Lily straightened her shoulders, meeting Mrs. Crabtree's glare head-on. "Mrs. Crabtree, welcome. We were just getting to the good part." She gestured to the documents. "These are the proof of my family's water rights. Proof that you have no legal basis to cut off my water supply." Mrs. Crabtree scoffed, taking a step forward. "Those are just old papers. They mean nothing." Sam stepped forward, placing a hand on Lily's arm. "With all due respect, Mrs. Crabtree, these are legally binding documents. We've had them verified by a lawyer. Cutting off Lily's water supply was a clear violation of her property rights." Lily held up another document. "This one is a survey map from 1928 showing the Spring and the Chun family property. It's all right here in black and white." The two HOA members flanking Mrs. Crabtree shifted uncomfortably, exchanging nervous glances. Mrs. Crabtree's face flushed crimson. I need to see these documents. Up close." She reached out a trembling hand, but Lily snatched the parchment away. "You'll have your chance, Mrs. Crabtree, with our lawyers present." Lily's voice was calm but firm. "But for now, I think it's time you and your entourage left." The crowd, emboldened by Lily's revelation and Mrs. Crabtree's obvious discomfiture, began to murmur their agreement. Mrs. Crabtree glared at Lily, then at the sea of faces surrounding her. Defeated, she turned on her heel, her two companions trailing behind her like scolded puppies. As they disappeared into the night, a cheer erupted from the crowd. Lily raised her glass of iced tea, a triumphant grin on her face. "To water rights, and to community. Crabtree's downfall." The projector hummed, casting a grainy image on the makeshift screen, a bedsheet strung between two oak trees. Lily held her breath as the video flickered to life, showing a younger, less wrinkle-lined Mrs. Crabtree standing before the town council years ago, arguing vehemently against a low-income housing project. "These elements," Crabtree's voice, sharper than, dripped with disdain, "will depreciate our property values and bring unwanted activities into our pristine community." A collective gasp rippled through the assembled neighbors. Mrs. Crabtree, standing rigidly at the edge of the crowd, her face a mask of fury, opened her mouth to speak, but Lily cut her off. "There's more," Lily announced, clicking to the next file. This one showed digitized copies of old HOA meeting minutes. Line after line, neighbors saw documented proof of Crabtree's selective enforcement of rules, disproportionately targeting families of color and those with limited English. Fines levied for unsightly decorations that were commonplace elsewhere, warnings issued for excessive noise when children played in their own yards. Mrs. Crabtree finally found her voice, a shaky tremor barely audible above the wind rustling through the trees. "These are fabrications. I would never what, Mrs. Crabtree?" Sam interjected, his voice calm but firm. "Never use your position to discriminate? Never prioritize property values over people?" He gestured to the screen. "The proof is right there." One by one, neighbors stepped forward, their voices rising in a chorus of shared experiences. Old Mrs. Henderson spoke of the constant pressure to trim her rose bushes just so, even though they provided shade for her aging cat. Mr. Garcia recounted the time his son was threatened with a fine for dribbling a basketball on the sidewalk after school. Mrs. Kim described the anonymous letters she received complaining about the smell of foreign cooking emanating from her home. The air crackled with anger and resentment. Mrs. Crabtree, visibly shrinking under the weight of their collective accusations, began to stammer, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. I was just trying to maintain standards to protect our investments." "At the expense of our humanity?" a voice boomed from the back of the crowd. It was Mr. Johnson, a retired teacher known for his booming voice and unwavering moral compass. "We trusted you, Mrs. Crabtree. We gave you our faith and you used it to build a wall between us." The tension reached a fever pitch. Lily watched as Mrs. Crabtree's eyes darted around, searching for an escape, but finding none. She was trapped, surrounded by the very community she had sought to control. Then, a single voice pierced the air. "Resign." The cry was quickly taken up by others, growing into a unified chant. "Resign. Resign. Resign." Mrs. Crabtree's shoulders slumped. The fight had gone out of her. She looked defeated, lost, a small, frail figure against the backdrop of the angry crowd. Without a word, she turned and shuffled back towards her house, the jeers of the neighbors echoing in her wake. As Crabtree retreated, a cheer erupted from the crowd. The air, thick with animosity moments before, now vibrated with relief. Sam squeezed Lily's hand. "We did it," he said, a weary smile on his face. Suddenly, a shout rang out from down the street. "Water's back on." A collective whoop went up. Lily felt a surge of adrenaline as the neighbors dispersed, eager to return to their homes and enjoy the simple pleasure of running water. She spotted Mr. Chin wiping grease from his hands, a triumphant grin on his face. He gave her a thumbs up. Lily knew the fight wasn't over. There was still much work to be done to heal the divisions within the community. But for now, they had won a significant victory. Crabtree was gone and the water was flowing. It was a start. A blooming future. The squeak of the microphone echoed through the community hall, momentarily silencing the restless murmurs of the gathered residents. Mrs. Higgins, a sweet, silver-haired woman known for her prize-winning roses and even temper, adjusted her glasses. "Friends, neighbors," she began, her voice surprisingly strong, "I promise to serve with fairness, transparency, and a deep appreciation for the diverse needs of our community." A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. Mrs. Higgins' victory over the previous president, a man whose name was now a curse word in several households, felt like a breath of fresh air. Lily squeezed Sam's hand, a genuine smile lighting up her face. Finally, she whispered, a voice of reason. The next morning dawned bright and optimistic. The oppressive weight that had hung over their little corner of suburbia seemed to have lifted. Lily, practically bouncing with energy, dragged Sam out to the ravaged garden. "Operation Bloom is a go," she declared, brandishing a trowel like a weapon. Sam chuckled, surveying the barren patch of earth. "Operation Bloom? That's your official name for this?" "Absolutely. We're not just planting flowers, Sam. We're planting hope." She winked, already digging with gusto. Together, they worked side by side, turning the soil, enriching it with compost, and carefully planting a riot of colorful flowers. Sunflowers stood tall, their faces turned towards the sky. Zinnias offered a vibrant tapestry of reds, yellows, and oranges. Petunias cascaded from hanging baskets, their delicate petals perfuming the air. "It's beautiful," Sam said, stepping back to admire their handiwork. "You have a real gift." Lily beamed, wiping sweat from her brow. "It's not just me, Sam. It's us. We did this together." A few days later, while Lily was watering the newly established garden, Mrs. Higgins approached her, a concerned look on her face. "Lily, dear, I was hoping I could have a word." Lily turned off the hose, her heart skipping a beat. Had she somehow violated some new, yet-to-be-announced HOA rule? "We've had several complaints about high water bills," Mrs. Higgins explained. "It seems some residents are struggling to keep up with the costs, especially with the summer heat." Lily frowned. "I know a little bit about the water system. My grandfather was the engineer who designed it." She paused, considering whether to offer the information she'd been holding back. "Actually, I own the water rights." Mrs. Higgins' eyes widened. "You do? That's remarkable. Would you be willing to share some of your knowledge? Perhaps offer some tips on water conservation?" An idea sparked in Lily's mind. "I could do better than that. I could analyze the system, identify leaks, and suggest ways to improve efficiency." And so Lily, armed with her grandfather's blueprints and Sam's analytical skills, embarked on a new mission. They spent hours poring over maps, tracing pipes, and calculating water flow. They discovered several leaks in the aging infrastructure and identified areas where water was being wasted. Lily presented her findings at the next community meeting. She spoke with passion and clarity, explaining the problems and offering practical solutions. She suggested installing low-flow shower heads and toilets, encouraging residents to water their lawns during off-peak hours, and implementing a rainwater harvesting system. The community listened, captivated by her expertise and genuine concern. Even the most skeptical residents were won over by her knowledge and enthusiasm. Within weeks, the community had embraced Lily's water conservation initiatives. Leaks were repaired, efficient appliances were installed, and lush green lawns gave way to drought-resistant landscaping. Water consumption plummeted, and water bills followed suit. Lily became a local hero. People stopped her on the street to thank her, to ask for advice, to simply express their gratitude. She had not only saved them money but had also brought the community together, fostering a sense of shared responsibility and environmental awareness. One evening, as Lily and Sam sat on their porch admiring their blooming garden, Sam turned to her, his eyes filled with pride. "You know, Lily," he said, "you're not just planting flowers. You're planting a future."